Pastor Steve here. As America celebrates its 250th birthday, we pause and we give thanks to God for this nation. But the truth is, America and the entire world is covered in darkness. That darkness is sin, and that sin is upon all of us. Romans 3:23 says all of us have sinned. And Romans 5:12 says that because of one man's sin, sin has been put upon all of humanity. Theologically, we call it the imputation of sin, meaning that sin has corrupted all of us from Adam. You see, there's two ways to look at the world. One is that man is basically good, and given the right environment, the right economic situation, the right education, he'll produce good things. The other is the Bible's view, that man is actually a sinner, totally depraved, and needs a Savior. You see, if you could save yourself, then why did Jesus die? Hey, the only escape from sin is Jesus. Jesus died on the cross to save your soul. But what about today? What about what's going on now in this world? Well, the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 4:4 says that the God of this world, that God of this world isn't Jesus or God, it's actually Satan. And it's not that he owns the world, it really is the God of this world system. And it says that he's blinded the eyes of those who have not believed. This is why you have discussions with your brother-in-law and you walk away thinking, how could they possibly think that? Jesus explains this darkness that covers the world in Luke 22 and verse 53, when he's about to be arrested and then crucified. When I was daily in the temple, you stretched forth no hands against me, but this is your hour. And he adds, and the power of darkness. Jesus says that we are about to start an hour or an era, a time of darkness. In John 12:23, Jesus said this, the hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. That glorification wasn't the cross. It is a time period. When Jesus uses the word hour, he means an age, a more than just 60 minutes time period. I believe it's what the Apostle Paul talks. There's going to come a time and place when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. So now we are living in an hour of darkness. Sometimes that darkness seems to be more intense when great trauma and tragedy happens in the world, or we see a news story of some horrific acting. But the truth is, the darkness has been here for thousands of years. And there's no government that can take it away. It's only Jesus. In Luke 22, it's the story of Jesus being arrested. And just a reminder, John 3:19 says that men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. We're going to see three things that darkness needs. First, darkness needs a crowd. In verse 47, it says, behold, a multitude came out to get Jesus, and he that was called Judas. A crowd makes a coward brave. Secondly, it needs a betrayer. In verse 48, and Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? You know, as a family pastor, I had the opportunity to see so many young kids, especially out of high school, and they would go off to college. And then after a year or two, sometimes they would come back, and some of them would denounce their faith, or they would completely walk away from church and have nothing more to do with God. What they've done is betrayed Jesus. And sometimes we sort of intellectually say, well, some college professor convinced them that Jonah or Noah isn't real. That's not why anybody walks away from Jesus. People walk away from Jesus, quite frankly, for sexual promiscuity. People walk away from Jesus because they want to live an inebriated lifestyle. They want to get drunk or high. And people walk away from Jesus because of materialistic concerns. You see, I've never known anyone that's walked away from Jesus and then become celibate. I've never known anyone who's walked away from Jesus and then said, when I was in church, I was a heroin addict. But as soon as I got away from the gospel, that's when I got sober. And I've never known anyone who's given up on their faith in Jesus and then turned around and given everything they had away to the poor. Number three, what the darkness needs, misguided followers. Peter's trying, he's doing his best, he's so much like us. They come to arrest Jesus in verse 50, it says, and then one of them, that's Peter, smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. Peter has a small knife that was used for their meal, and he takes it out, and he's not a good aim. He's trying to hit him in the head, and yet he hits his ear. Maybe the high priest's servant ducked, however it could have happened. There's a lot of tradition about who this man is and what he did later for Christ. But Jesus stops everything and says, Peter, what are you doing? He bends down and picks up the ear and he puts it on back on that man. You see, this is grace. And just so you can be clear that if Jesus can forgive this man and offer him grace, he can forgive you too. So during this season of darkness, stay on the path Jesus intended for us. Jesus didn't intend us to be political people. He didn't intend us to be social justice warriors. He didn't intend us to fight for racial injustice. He intended us to be a light to the world. He intended us to be a gospel presenter. He intended us to be soul winners. Because what the world needs isn't a better political leader or an economic system or a better education or philosopher. What the world needs is Jesus. Jesus brings clarity. And in verse 53, he tells them, I was in the temple and you didn't stretch forth your hand to get me. But this is your hour and the power of darkness. So in this hour, let me just encourage you to do two things as a believer in Jesus Christ in the darkness. Number one, shine the light of Jesus to small places. Matthew 5:6 says that we are supposed to shine our light. That light doesn't come within us. That light is like the moon, and we reflect the light of Jesus to the world. And too often, I know this might sound odd, too often we think too big. We see all the problems and issues going on in the world, and we think we have to have a big rally, a big event. You don't have to do that. There are some amazing people who have big torch lights for Jesus. I think of one of my heroes, Franklin Graham. But most of us will never have anything like that. But that's okay. You don't have to do some amazing, huge thing. Some of the most important things are small things. Lead a child to Christ. Love your mom. Walk across the street and help that lady whose husband has died and just sit with her and be Jesus to her. Be a soul winner and shine the light of Jesus. And number two, bring the love of Jesus to big needs. Someone has said, you rarely make a mess when you focus on loving other people. Hey, years ago when I lived in Texas in the 90s, I was a junior high uh, baseball coach. And we were at a Christian school. We shared the field with a public field. We shared it with a few other schools and one homeschool group. Showed up with my team. We were supposed to play at 5:30, and I look out, and our rival, a homeschool group, it was a fun rivalry. Our rival, the homeschool group, is out there, and they're about ready to play. And I'm like, no, we start in about 45 minutes. I walked out there. We had a team from Fort Worth coming over, and I said, hey, we have this field. I had our schedule. And the coach from the other team says, no, I think there's a misunderstanding. Well, something got underneath the skin of this umpire. He came out there and he started yelling at me. He said, this is their field and I'm in charge here and you're going to leave this field or I'm going to call the police and have you arrested. So I went back over mid 90s. Not everyone had a phone. One of our parents did. And I called our athletic director and said, no, it's yours. And he gave me the name of the parks department lady who makes a schedule. I called her. She said, absolutely. They've made a mistake. They have the field tomorrow. This is your field. Right in the middle, they had started the game and they're in the first inning. And I walked out there with my cell phone and I said, this is our field. And here's the parks department person. I don't think the umpire believed me. He took the phone and he listened to it for a second. I could tell he wasn't liking what he heard and he gave it back to me. And I said, sir, this is my field now. And you are going to get off my field or I'm going to have you arrested. And I proceeded to do something maybe I shouldn't have done. And I said, sir, you're out of here. You see, I've been coaching many years and I've never been thrown out of a game in basketball and football or baseball. But I did have the opportunity to throw an umpire out of a game. Listen, one day Jesus is coming back. I believe in a literal physical kingdom because I believe in the literal Bible is true and it tells us he's coming back. And so the darkness that has taken over, the darkness that seems to be destroying our world, that seems to be overcoming everything, well, it's just for an hour. It's just for a period of time. And Jesus is going to come back and he's going to remove it all. In that time, shine your light. Shine your light. Jesus is coming back and the darkness is going to lose. God bless you.